Welcome students to lesson 15 of the Living World topic. This is part 2 of our sequence of lessons on how to protect rainforests. In this lesson we will be exploring how countries can work together to protect the rainforests in those countries that have them. We will also be looking how you can go on holiday, and through those actions of going on holiday to countries with rainforests, you can protect them. Please write the date, title and learning objective and have a pen and paper ready to learn. Okay, time to review prior learning. Please write 1 to 10. Answer the questions from memory and then mark your answers. Go for it. Number 1. The plant, rosy periwinkle, is an example of a plant found in rainforests that have medicinal properties. It is used to treat cancer or leukemia. 2. Ecotourism involves people visiting a place on holiday, not damaging the local environment and providing incomes to local people. 3. Clear felling is a type of deforestation in which all the trees in an area are cut down. 4. Selective logging involves selecting certain trees to be felled, which allows the biodiversity in the ecosystem to remain high. 5. In Sarawak, helicopters are used to remove trees after they have been felled. This reduces damage to other trees and habitats. 6. Rainforests are carbon sinks because they absorb CO2 and therefore help to regulate the Earth's climate. 7. Rainforests help to filter water that goes into rivers because the trees help to prevent soil erosion. 8. The biome in the tropics that has a few trees but many large animals is called the savanna grassland. 9. Wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park, which led to an increase in biodiversity. 10. The most significant factor affecting a place's climate is its latitude. Give yourselves a mark out of 10. If you got 8 or more, you are amazing. Well done. Please write any questions that you've got wrong and their answers and test yourselves on these repeatedly so that you learn them. Okay. To introduce this idea, this lesson, I'm going to show you a photo. And around that photo, I'm going to show you some questions. Please answer the questions using your understanding. Okay, here we go. So what are they doing? First question. What might these people be doing? Well, last lesson we introduced this picture or a similar picture to it. You can see on the woman and the man's arm is a flag of Brazil. These people are protecting rainforests from deforestation. They are part of the IBAMA team, IBAMA, the government's organization to protect rainforests. So why are they needed? You should have said that they are needed because illegal logging and cattle ranching and agriculture are conducted by people in Brazil and other South American countries in order to make an income. And even though rainforest conservation is very common in the Amazon rainforest, some people do not follow those laws. So these people are needed to protect the rainforest, to enforce the laws. 3. What type of tourism causes less damage to Jamaica's environment? It was ecotourism. If you remember, in Blue Mountain National Park in the east of Jamaica, people view the peaks of the mountains and the ecosystem, and they go in small groups and live in lodges that are made of natural materials, and they recycle their waste. And this is ecotourism. This same ecotourism can be used in rainforests to reduce damage. You're going to learn more about that this lesson. 4. Why would HICs want to help Brazil to reduce deforestation? What does it have to do with them? Well, you could have made a number of points here. But it's more than simply the people in HICs caring about the biodiversity of rainforests. There's another reason. HICs and countries around the world are increasingly aware that rainforests are important for mitigating climate change. Climate change which is causing deaths to thousands of people around the world from things like drought, the spread of disease, rising sea levels, more powerful storms. So HICs would want to work with Brazil to reduce deforestation in order to mitigate climate change. Okay, this lesson you're going to understand the final two approaches to preventing rainforest deforestation. The first is ecotourism. I'm going to show you a case study of ecotourism in a small country that is mostly covered by rainforest called Costa Rica in Central America. But ecotourism is similarly used in Malaysia and in Indonesia as well. So let's find out how it works and how it can protect rainforests. This picture is taken in the Malaysian rainforest. It's of an eco-lodge that is designed in a certain way that it doesn't damage the rainforest. The buildings are constructed on stilts so that plants and animals can grow and live underneath them. They are made as small as possible. There are no wide roads connecting them, just a small path. All the waste used by this eco-hotel is recycled. It's not dumped into the environment. Renewable energy is used to power the lights in these lodges, and only a small number of people visit. This is ecotourism, but the fact that it doesn't damage the environment is not the only thing that makes it eco, not the only thing that ensures it protects rainforests. So let me show you how. The key idea about ecotourism is that it provides an income and jobs to local people. And crucially, the income provided to people, for example, as tour guides or as restaurant workers or as hotel construction or maintenance workers, is higher than the incomes provided by logging or damaging agriculture or mining. And because the income is higher, and because more jobs are provided, people have an incentive to get involved in ecotourism rather than in damaging industries. In Costa Rica, more than 50% of the GDP, the economy, comes from ecotourism. Consequently, more than 90% of Costa Rica's rainforest has been protected, conserved. That's an example of ecotourism effectively protecting rainforests. Additionally, ecotourism critically involves education of the tourists. These people do not just come to lie on a beach or to do paragliding or zip lining. They don't just come to have fun, although that's important. They also come to educate themselves of the natural environment. This photo is taken in Sri Lanka, a small island to the southeast of India. And this gentleman, the tour guide, is explaining to the tourists about the ecosystem here and the rainforest and how they sustainably grow tea within the rainforest so that it doesn't damage it. These people live in tents on their holiday. They don't produce a lot of waste. They don't cut down trees. They don't make a lot of noise to scare animals. And they don't remove any plants or animals from the environment. Consequently, through educating the tourists about the natural environment, they are less likely to damage it, and when they return home, they are more likely to spread their knowledge to other people, so that those people demand sustainable products. Not only that, but ecotourism uses some of the profits to educate the local people in the importance of protecting their environment. For instance, if you remember in the last lesson, I told you about this gentleman who used to be a farmer, but is now a tour guide. So ecotourism isn't just about educating people in HICs, it's also about educating locals, so that they may have more skills in order to get jobs that do not require damaging rainforests, for example, through logging, so that they may access ecotourism jobs. One of the key skills that locals gain through ecotourism education is speaking English and understanding the plants and animals, the wildlife that live in their rainforests, so that they can explain them. However, In order for ecotourism to be effective and to be sustainable, which means for it to last a long time and protect rainforests and provide incomes to local people, it needs to do two critical things. The first, if an eco-lodge such as this here is set up and eco-jobs are created and tourists visit, the government and independent people need to study the effects of that tourism on the ecosystem to make sure that it is not damaging the environment. In certain hotels in Costa Rica that were labelled eco-hotels, it was found that not all the waste was recycled, some of it was going into rivers and into the forest. Not only that, it was found that too many people were visiting, leading to soil erosion as people walked on the ground and damaged the plants, and leading to animals changing their behaviour and becoming afraid. So, monitoring the environmental impact of ecotourism is critical to ensure that it doesn't damage the environment. Because if you remember, ecotourism is still about profit. The hotels still want profit above all. So they may not care about the environment if the demand for tourism increases and the potential for their profits increases. They may care about the money more. So you need to make sure. And secondly, a government needs to prevent economic leakage. It needs to ensure that the jobs from ecotourism go to the local people and that the companies that are running the tourism and the tour guides and the hotels are from that country. For example, Malaysian-run hotels or Brazilian-run hotels or Costa Rican-run hotels. If you recall, in Jamaica, much of the tourism was run by hotel companies from America and Europe. This led to the profits from the tourism going back to the HICs and not being used in Jamaica to develop. This needs to be prevented in order for ecotourism to effectively protect the rainforest. Second and final way that we can protect rainforest is through countries working together. If HICs help LICs and countries with rainforests to protect their rainforests, they will be more able to do so. And here's how it happens. In our lessons on Nigeria, we learned about an organization called the United Nations. The United Nations is a group of countries, almost every single country in the world, that is designed and aims to protect the world from problems. For example, war or from environmental damage. So the key way it does this is by helping countries work together to solve problems. One of those problems is damage to rainforests. And part of the United Nations is an organization and a project called the UN RED program. RED stands for Reducing Emissions, that means carbon dioxide emissions, from forest destruction, deforestation, and degradation, reducing the biodiversity of the rainforest. So the UN RED program is designed to stop the damage to rainforests, which would lead to global warming. That is the UN RED program, and here's how it works. It helps HICs work with countries with rainforests to prevent deforestation in order to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, thereby mitigating climate change. I'm going to show you just one example of such a relationship between an HIC and a NEE. It's called the Amazon Fund, and here is how it works. It's an example of something called a carbon offset program. HICs release more CO2 per person and overall than LICs because the people are richer and have more cars, and HICs have more manufacturing, which releases more CO2 into the atmosphere, and HICs have more people travelling in planes and they trade more. Because HICs produce so much CO2, they need a way to helping other countries produce less CO2, and thereby they will offset, balance out their emissions of carbon dioxide. Think about it like this. Suppose you have a job where you have to drive miles every day, and you need to use a polluting van that releases lots of CO2 to make that journey. Now suppose you want to reduce your carbon dioxide emissions, but you simply cannot stop using that van. What you can do is take some of the money that you have from that job and use it to help another businessman or businesswoman to buy an electric van. And in so doing, you will reduce their carbon dioxide emissions. This reduction in their emissions will balance out the extra emissions that you produce. That's called a carbon offset. And the Amazon Fund works in the same way. An HIC funds another LIC or NEE to reduce its overall emissions in a carbon offset. So what is the Amazon Fund specifically? Well, HICs donate money to LICs, or NEEs in this case. What HICs are involved here? Norway and Germany. More than 90% of the money that goes into the Amazon Fund comes from Norway. The other 10% comes from Germany. Here's what the money is used for. That money, more than $1 billion every year, goes to Brazil. Brazil with the Amazon rainforest. And it's used like this. It's used to support Brazil's government to be able to fund soldiers and IBAMA to protect areas of the Amazon rainforest. These purple and light purple areas are protected by IBAMA from deforestation. So it's illegal to chop down trees in these areas. The money that pays for these people and their equipment to protect these areas comes from Norway and Germany. That relationship between Brazil and Norway and Germany is called the Amazon Fund. And it helps to offset the carbon dioxide emissions of Germany and Norway by reducing the emissions of Brazil. By protecting their rainforest, Brazil absorbs more CO2 and consequently reduces its emissions, which helps to balance out the extra emissions from Norway and Germany. Additionally, the money is used to empower local people. These local people who live in the southern regions of the Amazon here are educated and trained in ways of farming that do not damage rainforests as much. For example, by using crops that are found naturally within rainforests, such as Brazil nuts. They are also educated in ways to ensure that their farmland remains fertile without needing to burn the forest. Burning forests creates charcoal from the burned trees, which helps to fertilize the land. Unfortunately, it destroys the rainforest. So the people are trained in how to use different methods to fertilize land so that they can farm productively without causing deforestation. Additionally, some of the money is used to train people in other skills, for example, different languages, and in tertiary sector jobs so that they can move to cities and reduce their need to cut down trees to make an income. The Amazon Fund is an example of an international agreement because it is a relationship between two countries, or more than two countries, to protect the ecosystem in one of those countries. Specifically, the Amazon Fund is a bank account in Brazil where money from Norway and Germany is put, and that money is used specifically for these two reasons, and it leads to the growth of the Amazon rainforest. By protecting the Amazon, the UN RED program is able to protect trees, which absorbs more CO2 and consequently helps to prevent climate change. Now, as you know, climate change is still continuing. This project alone is not enough, but it is an example of a very effective international agreement that is protecting rainforests. Okay, time to assess learning. Question 1. Why are international agreements such as the Amazon Fund between Norway, Germany and Brazil an example of sustainable rainforest management? The reason is that not only do they provide money to Brazil to protect their rainforest through IBAMA, they also educate and train local people in how to make money without depending on rainforests. So it's sustainable because the people will not be incentivized to cut down the trees. Question 2. Brazil has high inequality and fairly high crime rates. Why might this make ecotourism less effective for rainforest conservation there? Well, tourists tend to go to countries that are safe and that have well-developed infrastructure. The Amazon is so large that the infrastructure, for example the hotels, are inadequate and often not there. Not only that, they feel discouraged by the crime rates in Brazil. So ecotourism in the Amazon is less popular than in countries such as Costa Rica. Question 3. What do countries need to be careful of to ensure that ecotourism is sustainable in protecting rainforests? Well, countries need to make sure that they monitor the activities of eco-hotels to ensure that they are protecting the rainforest and there aren't too many people and there isn't waste and that buildings are constructed in the correct way. They also need to ensure that local people are being employed in those hotels and in ecotourism so that they are provided with an income. And finally, they need to ensure that they are developing their own companies to provide tourism and not allowing too many foreign companies to set up hotels and tourist activities, which would lead to economic leakage. Okay, time to embed learning. Please answer these questions that I show you. Write the questions first. Make sure you check how many marks. If it's 4 marks, 2 well-explained points. If it's 2 marks, 1 well-explained point. And then mark your answers in green. Go for it. Make sure you use all the keywords in 3, 4, and 5. Number 1. Explain why investment in infrastructure is important for the success of ecotourism. Make sure you have both of these key points. People do not visit a hotel if you can't get there by road. There's a beautiful hotel in the center of the island, Sri Lanka, but the roads there are really bumpy and it takes hours to reach it. So that hotel is not as popular as it would be if the government invested in the road to get to it. Question 2. Outline 2 key features of sustainable rainforest management. You need both of these points exactly as I've written them. Question 3. Explain how the UN REDD program has helped to protect the Amazon rainforest from deforestation. You need all these key points. Make sure you've used the example of the Amazon Fund and explain clearly how this is an example of sustainable management. 4. Suggest how ecotourism could reduce demand for unsustainable rainforest products in HICs. Make sure you talk about education and awareness and informing people within their own countries. Even better if you use examples, such as palm oil or hardwoods. 5. Explain how sustainable rainforest management can encourage economic development and mitigate climate change. Make sure you use all these keywords. SRM stands for Sustainable Rainforest Management. Make sure you use the word dependent. Invest, taxes, development, key ideas. You only need 2 of these points here though. And this. Make sure you use greenhouse gases, climate change, CO2 being absorbed, and carbon sink. Okay, give yourselves a mark out of the total. If you only lost 2 marks or less, you are awesome. Well done, you've truly understood this. Make certain that you've added in green pen any parts that you've missed. Okay, from the lesson, write 2 questions, answer them from memory, and then in a week's time, test yourselves on those questions. Thank you for joining me for the sequence of lessons on rainforests. In the following lessons of the Living World topic, we will be exploring another biome, hot deserts. We are going to look at a specific hot desert found in India and Pakistan, and finally, in this series called The Living World, we're going to look at one of the most damaging and important threats to the environment and to humans that we currently face. Join me for those lessons. Thank you.